In real war, the only prisoners we take are the dead. In Harm's Way was not just a widescreen World War II epic. It was a brutal collision of ego ambition and emotional fallout on and off the set. Production battles erupt behind the Navy uniforms. Cast members clash, crew members collapse under pressure, and the studio quietly panics over dangerous decisions happening far from home. Today you discover 20 weird facts about In Harm's Way. Fact number 20. The film that wasn't a war epic, but a reconstruction of trauma. In Harm's Way is released as a grand World War II drama, but behind the cameras, a different story erupts. Otto Preminger does not simply direct. He rebuilds battle trauma he witnessed firsthand during his military service. What audiences do not know is that the emotional brutality on screen reflects memories he refuses to discuss openly. It was not spectacle. It was scar tissue turned into cinema. He demands authentic military discipline, and that order shatters the cast. Extras are drilled until exhaustion. Lead actors rehearse until their voices crack. Nothing feels theatrical. Everything feels lived in. The pressure becomes so intense that some crew members joke that they feel drafted rather than hired. Not a reenactment, but a reckoning. This weight gives the film its eerie stillness, its quiet devastation, its haunted energy. Fact number 19. John Wayne faces his most painful role. John Wayne is known for swaggering confidence, but in this film, he carries a wound he cannot shake. The character Rock Torrey loses command after a naval disaster. It hits close because Wayne is battling private guilt after a real-life health scare and a fractured personal life. It was not just a performance. It was confession through gesture. He struggles with dialogue about failure. He avoids eye contact during scenes about lost love. He grows uncharacteristically quiet between takes. Crew members note that when the dailies play, Wayne watches himself with attention none have seen before. The Duke looks like a man measuring his legacy, not just his character. What audiences do not know is this role forces him to face doubt he rarely admits. Not legend, but vulnerability. This friction fuels the film's emotional gravity. Fact number 18. The set where Otto Preminger turns order into fear. Preminger is famous for control, but on this production, his methods intensify. He tracks every call sheet personally. He times the crew. He demands silence so strict that even accidental noise causes explosions of anger. It was not discipline. It was domination. Actors who challenge him feel the backlash instantly. Apprentice leaves scenes shaken. Crew members warn newcomers not to draw Preminger's eye. But the strangest detail is that despite the fear, Preminger inspires brutal loyalty. Some insist the pressure sharpens the film like a blade. Others openly revolt. One camera operator storms off claiming the director has crossed a line. The set becomes a battlefield of wills where tension simmers in every corridor. This hostile atmosphere ironically creates the film's authentic sense of wartime unease. Real fear, forged cinematic fear. Fact number 17. Kirk Douglas delivers a performance that disturbs the crew. Kirk Douglas plays a deeply flawed officer whose decisions collapse lives around him. What audiences do not know is how far Douglas goes to find the darkness. His intensity frightens extras. He paces the set like a man ready to erupt. He improvises emotional outbursts that leave other actors stunned. It was not acting, it was excavation. Douglas taps into personal turmoil and unresolved rage. In one scene, he slams a prop so hard that crew members rush forward thinking he is injured. In another, he refuses to break character even after Preminger yells cut. The atmosphere thickens whenever Douglas arrives. People lower their voices. Crew members avoid crossing his path. This raw energy bleeds into the final cut, giving the film its most unsettling emotional moments. Not performance, but exposure. Fact number 16. The practical effects that endanger the team. The film's battle sequences rely on massive practical effects. No digital safety net. No modern protections. Explosions erupt dangerously close to actors. Debris flies across the decks. Several stunt performers dive for cover as charges misfire. It was not choreography. It was survival. One explosion detonates seconds early, sending a shockwave across the camera crew. Another stunt boat nearly capsizes when a wave machine malfunctions. Yet Preminger demands retakes to capture exact framing. Safety officers protest, but the production marches forward. The Navy advisors express worry that realism is tipping toward recklessness. What audiences do not know is that many of the practical effects are scaled-down versions of real military demolitions. Every blast carries genuine force. This danger infuses the battle scenes with terrifying authenticity, not imitation, but risk. Fact number 15. The Navy collaboration that turns into a power struggle. The United States Navy agrees to support In Harm's Way because the script appears respectful. But the relationship collapses into tension almost immediately. Navy officials expect a patriotic showcase, while Preminger plans a story about flawed leaders, broken men, and moral ambiguity. It was not partnership. It was collision. The Navy tries to control uniform ship movements and even specific lines of dialogue. Preminger pushes back with equal force. He alters staging without permission and blocks officers from entering certain rehearsals. At one point, a naval observer threatens to pull all cooperation. Preminger responds by saying, he will shoot the film his way, even if he has to rebuild the entire Pacific on a soundstage. This tug of war shapes the movie's tone. Not propaganda, but truth filtered through conflict. The film becomes a rare Hollywood production that stands firm against military polish. Fact number 14. Patrick O'Neill experiences a nightmare shoot. Patrick O'Neill serves as one of the emotional anchors of the story, but behind the scenes he faces a nightmare that few fans ever hear about. A sudden illness hits him during production, and he works through pain and fever because the schedule leaves no space for delay. It was not dedication. It was endurance, pushed past the breaking point. Crew members whisper about his pale face and trembling hands. He often sits alone between takes, gathering strength, while makeup artists try to mask his exhaustion. Preminger refuses to ease the pressure and demands full intensity in every scene. O'Neill delivers, but the strain lingers in his eyes, giving his performance an eerie, haunted quality. What audiences do not know is that he finishes several key scenes while barely able to stand. His suffering becomes woven into the tragic undertones of the film. Fact number 13. The Paula Prentice incident that shocks everyone. Paula Prentice brings emotional warmth to the film, but her time on set spirals into fear. Preminger's harsh directing style targets her repeatedly. His voice erupts across the set. As he pushes her to hit emotional notes, she struggles to reach under pressure. It was not guidance. It was assault through expectation. During one intense moment, witnesses say Prentice breaks down in tears after Preminger unleashes a brutal verbal critique. Actors rally around her offering support as she attempts to recover. For a brief moment, filming halts because the atmosphere becomes too charged to continue. This incident creates ripples throughout the production. Some crew members demand Preminger moderate his behavior. Others argue that his methods produce the raw authenticity the film requires. Prentice channels the emotional chaos into her performance, giving her scenes a trembling sensitivity that viewers still feel. Fact number 12. John Wayne's health becomes a secret crisis. John Wayne enters the film carrying a heavy hidden burden. He is recovering from significant health issues, and the demands of the shoot threaten to reopen old wounds. The crew watches him carefully as he moves across naval decks with a stiffness that reflects real pain. It was not acting. It was survival beneath a uniform. Wayne insists on performing certain scenes himself, even when stunt doubles stand ready. He refuses to appear weak, but after several difficult days, whispers spread across the set that the star might collapse. Doctors visit discreetly at night to monitor his condition. What audiences do not know is that Wayne pushes through sheer force of will. His physical struggle mirrors the quiet tragedy of his character. Not heroism, but perseverance carved into muscle and bone. This vulnerability forms the emotional spine of his performance. Fact number 11. Preminger and Wayne wage a silent war. Otto Preminger and John Wayne represent two towering but clashing personalities. Preminger values control, precision, and psychological pressure. Wayne favors instinct, tradition, and steady authority. Their visions collide from day one. It was not creative debate. It was trench warfare waged with narrowed eyes and clenched jaws. Wayne dislikes Preminger's habit of shooting endless takes. Preminger dislikes Wayne's resistance to emotional vulnerability. At one point, witnesses say Wayne walks off set for several minutes simply to cool his anger. Preminger responds by ordering everyone to reset for yet another take, without acknowledging the conflict. Their silent war creates a charged atmosphere. Every shared scene carries a subtle edge. Viewers feel tension they cannot name. This battle of wills ironically strengthens the film. Not harmony, but friction. Not comfort, but challenge. The film becomes a monument to clashing legends. Fact number 10. The mid-roll reveal that exposes the film's real cost. As production deepens, the emotional strain reaches a level the studio never expects. Budget sheets look stable, but human cost spirals. Crew members burn out. Actors argue quietly in corners. Preminger's intensity drains even seasoned veterans. It is not a film set. It is a pressure chamber disguised as a Navy operation. The studio receives unsettling reports about exhaustion and near accidents during explosive sequences. Executives consider sending representatives to rein in Preminger, but fear confronting him. His reputation for bulldozing interference keeps them away. What audiences never see is the weight that settles on every shoulder. Every call sheet feels heavier. Every day brings new tension, and since this is Fact 10, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next facts sink even deeper into the chaos that shaped In Harm's Way. The real battle is happening off-camera. Fact number 9. The night shoots that turn into an endurance trial. Much of the film's atmosphere comes from long night sequences captured on naval bases and in controlled water tanks. These night shoots look calm on screen, but they drain the cast and crew. It was not cinematic beauty. It was survival under floodlights that erase any sense of time. Actors shiver under wet costumes for hours. Crew members fight drowsiness as they haul cables across slick surfaces. Preminger refuses to shorten the schedule, insisting that night scenes must be shot at night. The exhaustion becomes so extreme that several workers reportedly fall asleep standing up. A stunt performer slips during a late take and narrowly avoids serious injury. The dailies capture eerie stillness during these hours. Faces look heavier. Movements slow slightly. This fatigue becomes a hidden ingredient, giving the film its somber, weary rhythm and its haunting realism. Fact number 8. The shocking rewrite that changes a key character. Midway through production, Preminger makes a decision that shocks the cast. He rewrites key emotional beats for Kirk Douglas, altering character motivation and several relationships. It is not refinement. It is upheaval. Douglas must shift his performance overnight. Scenes shot earlier no longer match the new emotional trajectory. Tension erupts between Douglas and Preminger as they debate whether the rewrite strengthens the story or undermines months of work. Crew members scramble to adjust call sheets. Continuity supervisors work overtime to prevent glaring inconsistencies. The rewrite also forces new blocking that disrupts the carefully designed set layouts. What audiences do not know is that this pivot creates the unsettling unpredictability that defines Douglas' performance. He looks unstable because both he and his character are caught in sudden emotional whiplash. The change risks the film, but also deepens its psychological fractures. Fact number 7. The naval advisors warn Preminger about dangerous realism. To maintain authenticity, the production hires naval advisors who served in real wartime operations. They expect to correct uniforms and technical language. Instead, they find themselves warning Preminger about extreme realism. It is not accuracy. It is recklessness. Preminger requests staging that mirrors actual wartime procedures, including risky formations during battle scenes. Advisors argue the setups are too dangerous, even with blanks and controlled charges. At one point, an advisor refuses to sign off on a maneuver, claiming it mirrors a real tactic that cost lives during the war. Preminger presses forward, insisting the film must capture the weight of war without filters. This conflict creates rifts between authenticity and safety. What audiences do not know is that these debates shape the film's raw texture, not stylized war, but war filtered through real warnings and real fear. Fact number 6. The island sequences become a test of endurance. The island scenes, set against beaches, forests, and rugged terrain, demand long treks with heavy equipment under intense heat. The landscapes look peaceful on film, but the reality is brutal. It is not paradise. It is punishment disguised as cinematography. Actors sweat through layers of naval gear. Makeup artists fight to keep faces from shimmering under the sun. Crew members haul tripods and lights across shifting sand that swallows their boots. During one difficult day, a generator overheats and shuts down, halting production for hours. Preminger becomes furious and orders everyone to reset the entire sequence once power returns. This environment wears down morale, but it also builds unity among some departments. They bond through shared struggle. The fatigue etched into the actors' faces becomes part of the final image. Viewers sense the weight without knowing its origin. Fact number 5. The crucial scene that nearly gets scrapped. One of the most emotional scenes in the film almost disappears entirely. During editing, Preminger grows frustrated with the pacing of a major confrontation and considers removing it to tighten the narrative. It is not refinement. It is erasure, poised to swallow an essential moment. Editors argue fiercely to keep the sequence. They insist it provides the final emotional anchor for the characters and the story. Wayne himself supports the editors and asks Preminger to reconsider. For several tense days, the scene hangs in limbo. Call sheets are reviewed. Continuity notes are pulled. Every department braces for a major restructuring of the film's shape. Finally, after rewatching the dailies, Preminger reinstates the scene. What audiences do not know is that this decision saves a core heartbeat of the film. Without it, the story would feel colder, flatter, and incomplete. Fact number 4. The cast parties that mask growing dread. Despite the pressure and tension, the cast often gathers for small evening parties, meant to relieve stress. On paper, these gatherings sound cheerful, but beneath the smiles, something darker grows. It is not celebration. It is escape. Actors hide exhaustion behind laughter. Crew members joke about the director's intensity because joking is easier than admitting fear. Wayne drinks quietly in corners. Douglas sits apart from the others, studying upcoming pages like battle maps. One night, a minor disagreement erupts into a heated argument, revealing how stretched everyone has become. The next morning, the set feels more fragile than before. These gatherings become emotional ventilators, letting pressure hiss out just enough to continue. What audiences do not know is that these fragile moments of camaraderie keep the film from derailing entirely. They survive because they cling to one another. Fact number 3. The final shoot nearly breaks the crew. The last stretch of production demands long hours, dangerous setups, and emotional exhaustion. Preminger refuses to ease up. He insists the final scenes carry a gravitas that mirrors wartime endurance. It is not a wrap. It is attrition. During one complicated ship sequence, tempers flare. A lighting tower malfunctions. A stunt performer narrowly avoids injury. Crew members beg for a break, but Preminger pushes forward, wanting one more. Take again and again. Morale collapses. Several technicians privately discuss quitting before the end. But they stay because they sense they are creating something powerful, even if the cost feels steep. This grueling final push bleeds into the film. Viewers feel weight in every frame. What audiences do not know is that exhaustion becomes the film's final, uncredited collaborator, shaping its tone with raw fatigue. Fact number 2. The editing room turns into a battlefield. When filming ends, peace does not return. It shifts into a new kind of war inside the editing room. Preminger watches cuts with laser precision and demands changes without hesitation. Editors argue for rhythm and breathing room. He argues for compression and severity. It is not post-production, it is siege. One editor, reportedly, storms out after a heated dispute over a transitional sequence. Another threatens to quit if Preminger continues to reject every suggestion. Sound mixing sessions grow equally tense as Preminger insists the score must feel mournful without slipping into melodrama. This internal conflict results in an edit that feels unusually stark and restrained for its era, not indulgence, but discipline carved through stress. The final cut emerges like a polished weapon, reflecting months of emotional warfare behind locked doors. Fact number 1. The premiere reaction that no one expected. When in Harm's Way, Premier's audiences brace for a traditional John Wayne war film. Instead, they encounter something colder, heavier, and more introspective. Silence hangs in the theater during key scenes. It is not triumph. It is reckoning. Critics divide instantly. Some praise the film for its brutal honesty, while others accuse it of being too bleak. Wayne watches the audience with quiet tension, unsure how they will respond to his vulnerable performance. But what shocks the studio most is the film's impact on veterans. Many former sailors write letters describing how the film mirrors emotions they never discuss publicly. This unexpected response reshapes the film's legacy. It becomes more than a war epic. It becomes a mirror held to trauma and duty. The reception proves that truth resonates even when cloaked in fiction. Bonus fact: the secret real letter that inspires a key moment. Hidden behind the production lies a private letter written by a real World War II officer who survived a devastating naval operation. The letter describes regret, fear, and the crushing burden of command. Preminger reads it before production begins, and it pierces him deeply. He never reveals the officer's name. He never quotes the letter directly, but he rewrites a pivotal emotional scene based on its raw confession. It is not adaptation. It is tribute, whispered through fiction. John Wayne performs the moment with haunting restraint, not knowing its origin, but feeling its weight. The atmosphere on set shifts, as if everyone senses the truth behind the words. What audiences do not know is that this unseen letter becomes the soul of the film, a real man's pain guiding a fictional officer's heartbreak. In Harm's Way stands today not as a typical World War II spectacle, but as a fusion of trauma artistry, clashing egos, and dangerous authenticity. Every frame carries the weight of what happened behind the scenes. If you want more deep dives into forgotten battles behind classic films, hit like and subscribe, and step into the next story with steady nerves. Remember this truth: sometimes the hardest fights never make it into the script.